Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. Well, my guest today, U.S. Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz, has become one of the most in-demand members of Barack Obama's cabinet since his appointment in May 2013. Now, Moniz's background as a nuclear physicist has thrust him into a key role as in the Iran nuclear talks, which are still ongoing. It's also his combination of scientific, technical, and political skills that the Obama administration is counting on to at least help sell a potential deal to skeptical lawmakers. But it's the energy part of his job title that has brought him here to Paris today. And he's here to talk about, notably, energy security, and also to help lay the groundwork for something you might have heard of, the International Climate Conference, the giant one that's set to be held here, hosted in the French capital at the end of this year. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks for being here. Climate conferences, we've seen them come and go. There's a lot of people get jaded about them. You have a sense that they happen, and then no one really lives up to their goals. You're obviously here representing the Obama administration in its policy. Obama has subscribed to what's called an all-of-the-above policy, which is exactly what it sounds like, right? It's both fossil fuel development, oil and gas drilling, alongside a search for green sources. Your critics would say, why not just emphasize the green sources, the renewable energies, drop the fossil fuels?
Well, that is a question that is raised often. I'm happy to address it. First of all, when we talk all of the above, we should make very clear we are starting with a commitment to a low-carbon economy. So we've been making progress on that, and as we all know, we need to make a lot more progress, and we are looking forward to the Paris meeting in December to help give the international community another big boost forward. Now, on all of the above, given the low-carbon commitment, we believe that we have to help through research and development, for example, all fuels to at least potentially have a place in the low-carbon marketplace. We are doing that because if you look at different countries, if you look at different regions of the United States, the resources are very different. Some places have excellent renewable resources and some don't, for example. So we believe that if you look internationally, there's not going to be one low-carbon solution. There are going to be many low-carbon solutions, and we are looking to give everyone, including ourselves, as many tools as possible.
One of the things that this climate summit hopes to set is the long-term goal. One option is going to what's called sort of a zero carbon economy, total decarbonization. Do you see that as realistic? You know, a lot of ecologists will tell you it absolutely is. It's just the political will isn't there.
Well, we don't see that realistically happening, certainly in the next decades. But if you look at what we need to reach the international goal of limiting warming to 2 degrees centigrade, what that probably calls for is certainly globally getting to more than half of the carbon removed, and certainly for the advanced countries like the United States, our targets need to be more in the 80% range.
And you're far from that right now.
So we are making very good progress towards our goal of 17% by 2020. We have laid out the goal of picking up the pace and getting to 26 to 28% by 2025, and that is a trajectory that would carry us to 80 by mid-century.
It's interesting because I speak to some, people who are helping organize this conference here in France, and they say, yes, it's being hosted by French President François Hollande. It's here in France, but at the end of the day, the U.S. is going to be calling a lot of the shots, for better or for worse. Everyone is going to be looking to you and the Obama administration for their policies. What can you bring to the table concretely to give hope that the U.S. is really serious about trying to move towards a greener economy faster than a lot of people say, at a faster rate?
Well, first of all, President Obama put out in 2013, in June of 2013, a climate action plan. It's very comprehensive. It calls for cooperation with Congress for a legislative approach, but it also says, in the absence of that, we can't wait. So we have a very aggressive program in power plants, in transportation, and in industry across the board to reach the goals that we have put forward. Again, the president makes no bones about it. We'd prefer to have a economy-wide approach with Congress, but that will not stop us from moving forward aggressively. What else do we bring to the table? Besides our own programs, of course, we have and continue to work with Europe in many, many ways in terms of advanced technologies. But I would also add on the international front, the joint announcement of President Obama and President Xi in China in November, frankly, has changed the game in many ways in terms of the international discussion.
The way we're talking about climate change as well. I'd like to ask you, obviously, about the 900-pound gorilla, which is the issue of hydraulic fracturing, so-called fracking. Shale gas is not authorized here in France. It's very controversial elsewhere in Europe as well. The U.S., just the opposite. You support fracking. Are you not concerned about the scientifically proven environmental risks of this technology?
Well, first of all, if we want to invoke the term scientifically proven, we should be very careful as to what the facts are. We have always said that, well, first of all, the economic benefits of hydraulic fracturing have been enormous, number one. Number two, they have also led indirectly to our lower carbon emissions, because in the United States, the natural gas price has now been driven down to a point that, frankly, it's displaced a lot of coal plants and has reduced our carbon emissions. Third, we are certainly committed to continuing to advance with this technology, including we must continue to reduce the environmental footprint. We have said, and I will say it again, the environmental impacts of hydraulic fracturing are manageable. They are challenging, and unfortunately, they have not always been managed. But they are manageable. We are making very good progress on that. And again, I think we have to look at our entirety of our environmental, economic, and security goals and reach the right balance.
Because I will point out that when you came into office, you said that climate change is not debatable. You were very clear about that. Mm-hmm. You believe, though, that clean energy policy does imply some sort of harnessing new technologies to help make that transition easier. Right. I would like to ask you about the energy.
If I may just say on that what I said also was that natural gas in that context is a bridge to a very low carbon future.
How long does it take?
I think over 20, 25 years, you will see natural gas in our context with a lot of coal used. Yeah. You will see natural gas as part of the solution. And then eventually, it also would need new technologies like carbon capture to contribute in a very low carbon future.
In the broader context in Europe right now, a lot of concerns about natural gas with Russia, with respect to Russia, a lot of heavy reliance, especially in Eastern Europe, on Russia. Mm-hmm. What can the United States, if anything, do to help ease Europe's energy plight?
Well, of course, first of all, Europe itself has got a bunch of steps that it could take, even without getting into the issue of indigenous resources. But diversification of supply, for example, getting natural gas coming from the Caspian is very important. Expanding natural LNG imports is important. In the completing the natural gas infrastructure in Europe to move gas between countries is very important. Those all are to be completed.
Shipping shale gas from the United States to Europe?
Now, in the United States, we will start our LNG exports early next year. I expect that we will be very significant international players in the LNG market.
Do you see the U.S. possibly supplanting Russia's role in supplying even Eastern Europe, which is geographically very far?
We have to remember that in the end, market structures will determine where specific LNG sources end up going.
Sure.
But the important point is we will be putting, I believe, a lot of natural gas on the global market, and for Europe to benefit from that, completing its internal process of infrastructure development will be very important.
Very briefly, 30 seconds. You've been a key man on the technical issues in these Iran talks. Obama relying on you to sort of explain all the things like what are quarks, plutonium, what is a breakaway time, all of that. How are the talks going? We're working towards a comprehensive agreement here. Characterize them.
Well, certainly, I think on April 2nd, when we were able, the P5+1, I should emphasize, not just the United States, the P5+1 and the EU, what we announced on April the 2nd, the framework for an agreement, I think, frankly, impressed a lot of people in terms of its scope and its specificity.
But you still have a concern. You still have
now
concerns.
we have the 90 days. Now we have 2 months roughly to complete the job. The negotiations have now been going on at the team level, making progress. I expect the ministers will be coming back in fairly soon to reach closure by the end of June.
And a tough job ahead. Secretary of Energy Ernest Moniz, thank you so much for being here today, obviously here in France to talk about energy policy, energy security ahead of that big Paris climate conference at the end of the year, but also involved very much on nuclear issues as well in the United States. Thanks for being a guest at France 24.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks to all of you for watching. More news ahead here on France 24.